We're not talking about the stuff you find on those other websites. We're not talking about mechanics, positions, or some secret trick to turn her on in 5 seconds. If that's what you're looking for, you're in the wrong place. We're going deeper. We're talking about the silence in the room after the lights go out. We're talking about that invisible wall between you and the woman lying 3 inches away from you. A survey of 10,000 women, real women, wives, partners, professionals, didn't point to more action. They pointed to a void, an emotional hunger that most men are completely blind to. They admit that what they crave most isn't just a physical release. It's the feeling of being truly, deeply seen. It's about that raw, unfiltered connection that makes a woman feel like she's the only person in your universe. If you've noticed your views dropping in your own life, if you feel like your connection is stalling, it's because you're playing the game on the surface. You're missing the heartbeat. This is the raw, unfiltered truth that nobody wants to talk about because it's uncomfortable, it's heavy, and it demands you to step up in a way most men aren't prepared for. These women are crying out because they are starving. They are sitting right next to you, maybe even lying in the same bed, but they feel like they are haunting a house alone. You're worried about performance. She's worried about being forgotten while you're right on top of her. This isn't just about sex. It's about the soul-crushing loneliness a woman feels when she's being touched by a man who isn't actually there. Before we dive into the deep end of this, if you're a man who actually gives a damn about the legacy you leave in your relationship, hit that subscribe button right now. We're building a brotherhood of men who actually get it, men who aren't afraid to look at the truth, no matter how much it stings. The data doesn't lie, and the stories these 10,000 women shared are heartbreakingly consistent. They talked about the ghost in the room. You know what that is? It's when you're going through the motions, doing everything right by the book, but your mind is on your bank account, your boss, or your own insecurities. She can feel that void. To a woman, sex isn't a standalone event. It's the climax of an emotional story that started the moment she woke up. They crave the gaze. That look where you aren't just looking at her body as a conquest, but you're looking into her eyes like you're trying to read the secrets she's too scared to tell anyone else. Most guys are terrified of that level of intimacy because it requires you to be vulnerable too. It requires you to drop the tough guy act and actually connect. These women admit they would trade 1,000 perfect nights for one night where they felt like they were the only thing that existed in your universe. They want to feel like they are being consumed by your presence, not just handled by your hands. If you're just servicing her, you're losing her. She doesn't want a technician. She wants a man who is brave enough to be overwhelmed by her. Look, most men think intimacy is something that happens between the sheets. Wrong. For a woman, intimacy starts at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday. It starts when you look at her, not as the person who manages the house or the mother of your kids, but as a woman with a soul that's starving for attention. These 10,000 women confess that they feel lonely even while being touched. Think about that. How can someone be touching you and you still feel alone? It's because the presence isn't there. You're in your head, thinking about your job, your bills, or your own performance. She can feel that ghost in the room. What she's craving is for you to drop the mask. She wants the man who isn't afraid to look her in the eyes and say, "I see you. I see the stress you're carrying. I see the beauty you think is fading." That emotional safety is the ultimate aphrodisiac. Without it, everything else is just friction. The data shows something fascinating. A massive percentage of these women crave emotional dominance. Now, don't get it twisted. This isn't about being a jerk or some toxic, controlling bullshit. It's about being an emotional anchor. In a world that is chaotic and loud, a woman wants to feel like she can completely let go when she's with you. She wants to stop being the boss, the planner, and the fixer. She wants to collapse into your strength, but you can't provide that strength if you're emotionally shut down. If you're a nice guy who's constantly seeking her approval, you're killing the tension. She doesn't want a servant. She wants a leader who understands the landscape of her heart. She wants you to take charge, not just of the physical act, but of the emotional atmosphere. That means being the one to initiate the deep conversations, the one to hold the space when she's falling apart, and the one who stays steady when things get heavy. That's the slag of the soul, the raw, unpolished truth of being a man who can handle a woman's complexity without flinching. These 10,000 women confess that their deepest desire is to finally let go. In today's world, women are carrying everything: the career, the kids, the schedule, the emotional labor of the entire household. They are exhausted from being the boss. When they get behind closed doors with you, they crave a man who is strong enough, centered enough, and emotionally present enough to take the lead. They want to feel your weight, not just physically, but the weight of your character. They want to know that for the next hour, they don't have to think, they don't have to plan, and they don't have to be strong. They want to collapse into you. But you can't give her that if you're emotionally weak, or if you're constantly seeking her validation. If you're asking, "Is this okay, Santa?" or "Do you like this?" every 5 seconds because you're scared of failing, you're forcing her to stay in her manager brain. You're killing the fire. Let's talk about the slow burn. Most guys treat intimacy like a sprint. They want to get to the finish line as fast as possible. But these women admitted that the anticipation is often more powerful than the act itself. They crave the tension that builds up over hours, maybe even days. It's the brush of your hand against her lower back while she's making coffee. It's the text message in the middle of the day that has nothing to do with chores and everything to do with how much you desire her mind. It's the way you look at her across a crowded room. If you aren't stoking that fire all day long, don't be surprised when the hearth is cold at night. Women operate on a different emotional frequency. Their desire is like a slow-moving river, not a light switch. If you want her to open up, you have to be the one who clears the path. You have to be the one who makes her feel safe enough to be vulnerable. Because when a woman feels emotionally safe, she will give you parts of herself you didn't even know existed. There's a slow burn that most men are completely missing because they've been conditioned for instant gratification. These women admitted that the most erotic thing a man can do is build emotional tension throughout the day. It's the raw, unpolished moments where you show her she's desired without expecting anything in return right then. It's a hand on the back of her neck while she's stressed, a look that says, "I know what you're going through, and I've got you," or a text that mentions a specific detail about her soul that you find captivating. If you're waiting until the lights are off to start the romance, you've already lost the battle. Her desire is like a deep, slow-moving river. Your desire is like a lightning strike. If you want to dive into that river, you have to start walking toward it long before the sun goes down. They crave the anticipation. They want to feel the heat building up so much that by the time you actually touch her, it feels like an explosion. Most guys are lazy. They want the prize without the journey. But the journey is where she falls in love with you over and over again. We've been lied to. We've been told that being a man means being a provider and a protector, and that's it. But we forgot the lover part. And no, being a lover isn't about how long you can last. It's about how much you can feel. These 10,000 voices are screaming for men to wake up. They're tired of the autopilot sex. They're tired of the going through the motions. They want the fire. They want the passion that comes from a man who is fully present in his own skin. They want you to be all in. If you're holding back, if you're scared of being too much or too emotional, you're starving her. You're starving the relationship. Real talk. The most alpha thing you can do is be brave enough to meet her in that deep, emotional ocean. It's scary because you have no control there. It's scary because you might get hurt, but that's where the magic happens. That's where the craving is satisfied. We have to address the mental load because it's the silent killer of desire. 10,000 women scream this in different ways. I can't feel sexy when I feel like a maid. If you want that raw emotional craving from her, you have to be the man who protects her peace. It's not just about doing dishes. It's about showing her that you are her partner in the trenches of life. When she feels like you truly see her struggle and you step in to lighten it, her heart opens. And when her heart opens, her body follows. It's a biological and emotional lock and key mechanism. You want that 10-10 connection? Start by being a 10-10 man in the hours that don't count. Be the man who notices she's drowning and reaches in to pull her out. That creates a level of trust-based desire that no trick or technique can ever replicate. She will crave you because you are the only place in the world where she can truly be herself without judgment or burden. Let's get real about the validation. Not just "you look pretty" validation, but "I see your soul" validation. They crave being known, truly known. They want a man who notices the small things, The way her eyes change when she's tired, the way she bites her lip when she's nervous, the dreams she gave up on because she was too busy taking care of everyone else. When you validate her existence, when you make her feel like her thoughts and feelings are the most important things in the world to you, you create a bond that is unbreakable. That bond is the foundation for everything that happens in the bedroom. It's the emotional desire that turns a physical act into a spiritual experience. Don't settle for the surface. Don't settle for good enough. Go deeper. These women admitted they want to feel special, not in a participation trophy way, but in a "you are my chosen one" way. They want to know that you see the parts of them that are aging, the parts they are insecure about, and that you desire those parts even more because they belong to her. They crave a man who is obsessed with her essence. When you look at her, she should feel like she's the most beautiful woman you've ever seen, even if she's in sweatpants with messy hair. That emotional safety, knowing that your desire for her isn't going anywhere, allows her to open up in ways that will blow your mind. If you're ready to stop being just another guy and start being the man she can't live without, then you need to commit to this path. This isn't for the tourists. It's for the men who are ready to do the heavy lifting to reclaim their throne and their woman's heart. Stop waiting for her to get in the mood and start creating the environment where the mood is the only natural outcome. Be the man who listens to the 10,000 voices and realizes that the secret isn't in what you do, it's in who you are when you're with her. Be there. Be present. Be real. That is what she craves. That is what will change everything. Don't let her be one of those voices in a survey talking about what she wishes she had. Be the man who gives it to her every single day. Rise up, be present, and lead with your heart. That is the secret. That is what she craves. Let's get deeper into the psychological grit of what these 10,000 women were actually saying when the cameras were off and the filters were stripped away. We're moving past the surface-level romance and into the dark, visceral reality of what it means to be a man who truly commands a woman's desire. They admitted that most men are playing a role, like they're reading from a script they didn't write. They're acting like they're confident, but deep down, they're terrified of the very woman they're trying to connect with. This fear, this subtle vibrating anxiety, is like a poison in the room. A woman can smell it. She can feel it when you're holding back, when you're not fully claiming the moment because you're worried about being too much or being judged. But the data shows that what she craves is the opposite. She craves the version of you that is raw, unfiltered, and unapologetically present. She wants the man who isn't afraid to get his hands dirty with the messiness of real emotion. If you want to stop being the guy who gets the cold shoulder and start being the man she can't get enough of, you need to understand that intimacy isn't a performance. It's an invitation to a war where the only way to win is to surrender your ego. If you're ready to stop playing small and start living with the kind of intensity that keeps a woman hooked for a lifetime, hit that subscribe button right now. And for the brothers who want the real blueprint, our membership is where we break down the walls that society built around your heart. Don't just watch. Join the movement. One of the most haunting revelations from these 10,000 women was the concept of the safety to be shattered. Think about that for a second. In her daily life, she has to be the rock. She has to be the one who keeps it all together, who manages the chaos, who puts on the armor every single morning. But in the bedroom, in the dark, she craves a man who is strong enough to let her fall apart. She wants to be shattered by your presence, not in a way that hurts, but in a way that allows her to let go of the crushing weight of her own existence. Most men are too nice or too gentle because they're scared of her power. But she's not looking for a fan. She's looking for a sanctuary. She wants to know that no matter how loud she screams, no matter how much she cries, and no matter how wild she gets, you aren't going to break. You are the mountain. You are the steady ground. When she knows you can handle her darkness, she will give you her light in ways you've never seen. This is the emotional dominance we talked about, the ability to hold her through her own emotional storm without flinching. If you're retreating the moment things get too emotional, you're telling her that you aren't strong enough to lead her. And if you can't lead her soul, you'll never truly have her heart. Let's talk about the paradox of the protector. Society tells us to be the alpha, the guy who shows no weakness. But these women admitted that the moment they felt the most craving for their man was the moment he showed his true, naked vulnerability. Not whining, not complaining, but the raw honesty of a man who says, "I'm scared of losing you," or, "I don't know how to fix this, but I'm not leaving." That kind of honesty is like a lightning bolt to a woman's nervous system. It creates a level of primal trust that is the foundation for the most intense physical connection possible. When she knows you trust her with your own soul, she feels safe enough to give you hers. Most guys are walking around with a 50-pound suit of armor on, wondering why they can't feel the warmth of the sun. Take the armor off. Let her see the scars. Let her see the man behind the machine. That's the slag, the unrefined, powerful essence of who you are. When you stop trying to be perfect and start being present, the dynamic shifts. She stops looking at you like a provider and starts looking at you like a drug she can't quit. The study also highlighted a massive intimacy gap in the way men and women perceive the aftermath. For a man, the act is often the end of the story, the reset button. But for these 10,000 women, the time after the physical act is where the real craving is solidified. They talked about the afterglow connection. They crave the man who stays in the room, who keeps the energy alive, who doesn't just roll over and check his phone or fall asleep. They want to be held in the silence. They want to feel like the physical act was just a gateway to a deeper conversation. When you exit the moment too quickly, you're telling her that the emotional desire was just a means to an end. You're making her feel like a transaction. But when you linger, when you look at her with that same intensity after the fire has calmed down, you're building a bridge of enduring desire. You're showing her that you value her, not just the release. That is what she will think about all day at work. That is what will make her crave you when she's miles away. We have to get real about the language of touch. It's not just about where you put your hands, it's about the intention behind it. These women confessed that they can feel the difference between a hand that is taking and a hand that is giving. They crave the intentional touch, the kind that says, "I see you, I want you, and I am here for you." It's a slow, deliberate pressure. It's the way you pull her in without saying a word. It's the emotional communication that happens through the skin. Most men are too rushed, too mechanical. They treat her body like a puzzle to be solved instead of a landscape to be explored. These 10,000 voices are begging you to slow down, to feel the vibration of her breath, to notice the way her skin reacts to your heat. When you become a master of presence, you don't need tricks. Your presence is the trick. You become the man who can turn her on just by walking into the room because she knows that when you touch her, you are touching her whole being, not just her body. Finally, understand the power of exclusivity. These women don't just want to be a woman, they want to be the woman. They crave the feeling of being your chosen one. In a world of infinite options and social media noise, they want to feel like they are the only person who can truly unlock your heart. When you make her feel like she has a secret key to your soul that no one else has, her desire for you becomes fanatical. It's the emotional exclusivity that creates the deepest bond. Stop comparing her, stop looking for the next best thing, and start investing in the woman standing right in front of you. Show her that she is your queen, not just by what you say, but by the way you prioritize her emotions, her dreams, and her peace. When she feels like she is the center of your universe, she will make you the king of hers. This is the work, gentlemen. It's not easy, it's not fast, and it's not for the weak. But if you're man enough to listen to these 10,000 voices, you will find a level of fulfillment and passion that most men will never even know exists. Rise up, be the man she craves, be the man who actually gives a damn. This is where the rubber meets the road. And this is the part most men will ignore because it's the hardest truth to swallow. We can talk about data, we can analyze 10,000 voices, and we can break down the psychology until we're blue in the face, but none of it matters if you don't have the grit to execute. Real talk. The most dangerous place a man can inhabit is a room with a woman who has stopped craving him. It's a cold, silent death. These women didn't just admit what they crave. They admitted what makes them check out emotionally. They are tired of the ghost man, the guy who provides the paycheck, mows the lawn, and sits on the couch, but whose soul is nowhere to be found. If you feel like your views are dropping in her eyes, If you feel like you're becoming a secondary character in your own marriage or relationship, it's because you've stopped being the lead. You've stopped being the man who pursues the emotional truth of his woman. You're playing it safe. But safety is where passion goes to die. If you're one of the few who actually wants to fight for that fire, if you're ready to be the man she talks about with a shaking voice because you've reached parts of her no one else could touch, then you need to commit to this brotherhood. Hit that subscribe button and get into our Inner Circle membership. We're not here to give you tips. We're here to rebuild the man from the inside out so you can handle the weight of a woman's deepest desires. The final secret that these 10,000 women revealed is the craving for the unseen. They want to know that even when they are at their worst, when they are angry, when they are aging, when they are lost, that you still see the girl inside them. They crave the man who can look past the exhaustion and the to-do lists and find the spark that made him fall in love in the first place. This is high-level intimacy. It's the ability to say, I see you, and I'm not going anywhere. Most guys think that once they have the woman, the work is over. But for her, the work is just beginning. She wants to be won every single day. She wants to feel the emotional tension of a man who is still hungry for her soul. When you stop being hungry, she stops being open. It's a direct reflection. If you want a woman who is wild, vibrant, and emotionally connected to you in bed, you have to be the man who is wild, vibrant, and emotionally connected to her life. You are the architect of the atmosphere. If the atmosphere is cold, look at the man in the mirror. We're closing the book on this study, but the real work starts the moment you put your phone down or walk away from your computer. You have two choices. You can go back to being the ghost, going through the motions and wondering why the spark is gone, or you can step into the fire. You can be the man who leads with his heart, who protects her peace, and who commands her desire through the sheer power of his presence. These 10,000 women are telling you exactly what they want. They are handing you the keys to the kingdom. The question is, are you man enough to turn the lock? Are you brave enough to be the emotional anchor she can't live without? Don't let your relationship become another statistic in a survey about lonely people. Be the outlier. Be the man who actually gives her what she craves. It's time to stop watching from the sidelines and start playing for keeps. This is the end of the silence. This is the beginning of the heat. Rise up, lead, and never let that fire go out. Because a woman who is truly seen by her man is a woman who will give him the world. Now go take it.